Hey everyone, and welcome to part 3 in this Delorean Bosch K-Jetronic fuel injection repair series. In the first video we unstuck the plunger on the fuel metering unit. This was followed by a video with the rebuild of the warm-up regulator. This is now going to be followed by the fuel injectors as well as the CO screw. From my lightning strike I lost a lot of footage on this, but I'm going to redo what's important in this video. One thing I don't do is try and remove these clips on the fuel injectors with a flathead screwdriver. It may work, but ultimately you'll probably end up getting a new set of clips, making them a single-use item. Instead, these cheap hooks from Harbor Freight make it really easy to remove. This one is bent on a 90. The ends of these are really sharp though. I've stabbed myself a number of times, but that could just go under each clip and pull outward and upward to release it. Really simple. If these clips are damaged in any way, they have to be replaced. With the clip removed, I could pull the whole injector and the rubber grommet right out of the assembly. All of them now removed from the assembly, I have 6 baby food jars which I'll be using for pattern and drip testing. The injectors are placed into the jars, and then I put the jars in an area where they'll be relatively secure for the test. On this side, the idle speed motor was removed to make room, and all the injector cables were removed from the metering unit and brought up top. That way I had room to work with them, because in their normal position, there's no way to get them into these jars. I do balance the jars in the same way, securing them so nothing falls during testing. Canned air will be used to blow the dust off of this metering plate, just because it's been sitting here out in the open without an air filter. I don't want to get any contaminants in the engine. The fuel pump is running, and I begin by inspecting the warm-up regulator, making sure that it's not leaking since these cables were recently connected. I'll push down on the metering plate. I don't expect to see any gas until all of the air is purged, but I can hear it. I can, however, tell, based on how far I'm pushing it down, that it is way off right now, but that's fine. After a couple of attempts, we should see fuel start to flow, and there's the first injector, and the one behind it just started, and there's the third one, still some air in there. I'll make an off-the-cuff adjustment just to get it in the ballpark right now for this testing that I'm doing. Rotating the screw clockwise until I see the injector start to flow, and then I'll back it off about half a turn. Okay, things are starting to move right there, so I'll back it off. One of the complications we'll see is that these injectors do drip even when they're off. They also start to flow at slightly different times because the springs are weak. Again, this is just a ballpark for a demonstration before I swap them out. So I'll back it off just a little bit further and we'll get underway. Probably about half a turn should do it. Close enough. Let's begin. Being sure to pull out the Allen key, I'll push down the plate. And it's hard to show on camera, obviously, if they're all opening at the same exact time. So what I did was I worked on 3 at a time on one side, and we can see the pattern looks really nice on this one because a lot of cleaning was done with ultrasonic cleaner, as well as a way to open up both ends for cleaning, which is also beneficial. These 3 were used on both sides to make sure the fuel metering unit is applying even pressure to all 6 injector ports. Repeating in slow motion, we see that all the fuel in the jars is agitated at the exact same time. But even though cleaning helped, I can't get past the drips, especially on these 3. These are my bad ones. No amount of cleaning is going to help a weak spring. So with the fuel pump shut off and the pressure now gone from the system, we're going to remove these old injectors and replace them with brand new Bosch injectors. I'll remove my fuel test canisters now. This gasoline will go into the gas can that I use in the tractor. And here are the brand new injectors. I'll be replacing all 6. 2 12mm will be used to remove the injectors from the cables. I'll just be breaking tension on all 3 of these on this side first. As I unscrew them, I ensure that I don't drop any of those copper crush washers into the engine. The injectors come out with the spring clip and the rubber grommet. I'll pull that clip right off from the top. And if to spraying the injector with some oil, I slide the grommet right off. If the grommets or clips are damaged, they'll need to be replaced. Otherwise, I'll spray the inside of the grommet with some oil, and the residual oil that's on my hands will be put on the injector to make it easier to install the grommet after I pull this plastic cap off. It's really on there. Once the grommet is fully seated in that detent, it should be able to spin on the injector without any real resistance. The clip will go right back over the top, and the injector will be screwed back on the fuel line. I'm not going to tighten it down just yet. I just hand tighten it till all of them are done. This will be followed by the dust cap that I'm just going to put on the end to protect it. Then it's just wash, rinse, repeat for all of the other injectors in the car. All the injectors have now been replaced. I usually torque them by feel, but because I'm making a video, I'm going to torque them to 12 Newton meters for these M8s. This is a 12mm socket on here. Supporting the fuel injector with a 12mm, I'll just tighten it until it clicks. All the jars back out again for pattern, drip, and setting up that CO screw, all in position now. Start by purging the air out of the system, take a couple of seconds, and we're just setting up the ballpark for the CO screw. We're not actually doing the final setting. This is enough to get the engine to run so that we set up with the dwell meter. Look at the pattern on these new injectors. It's like steam. Absolutely perfect. Now for the baseline CO. I don't know if we could hear the clicking as it just opens on camera, but I'm going to try to bring the camera close so we could hear it. And we could listen as it slows down when I make the adjustment. Then about a quarter turn closed after it stops clicking. That should be sufficient for ballpark. Listen closely. Now it's time to get the injectors back in and reinstall the fuel lines. Starting with the right side, because it doesn't require any line removal, I'm just going to go and remove the paper towels that I have to block the port. And then the injector will just be wrapped around back into the correct position, because I did tangle them in some wires in order to get them up and out for testing. So once it's back in the correct position, I'll push the grommet all the way down with the injector full seat, and then the clip will snap over it. And I'm doing this from back to front because it's just easier to work that way. The next injector is installed just like the last. Then all the cables are checked, redressed, and put back into any plastic harnesses they may have popped out from. This side's looking good. The other side, a little more difficult because the fuel lines will need to be removed from the car to reinstall them. A 12mm is used to loosen from the top of the fuel metering unit, then unscrewed, ensuring again that that copper washer does not fall into the engine. Just as on the other side, I'm starting from back to front, running it through the cables and hoses in the correct direction from the back. I'm able to first put in the injector. Once seated and click down, I'll make sure that the line is correctly able to reach the fuel distributor, at which point the line will be reconnected to the fuel distributor, just hand tightening it. We're not going to do the final torquing yet. This will be followed by the middle injector. And finally, the front injector. Check the angles of the lines one last time, look around, make sure nothing's impinged, and once they're in the right position, I'll break out that torque wrench still on 12 Newton meters and torque down all 6 of them. That's it. Fuel injectors are done. Everything is starting to come together. Next, I'm going to have to install the idle speed motor. This was hanging off to the side from earlier before. I'm going to reconnect it to that hose connected to that auxiliary air pipe, making sure not to jostle that pipe out from under everything, as well as this connection to the pipe where the cold start valve is. And when they're both back in, I'm just going to line everything up to the bracket on that intake manifold. This looks good, so I'm going to loosely affix the bolts now, making sure I don't drop them into the engine. And then once they're all set up and aligned, I'll tighten them down. I had removed this vacuum line from the warm-up regulator just to make some room to install the idle speed motor, so I'm reconnecting that line. Now I can pull out this paper towel, place this cap back in on the oil fill. Also reconnecting my connection to the cold start valve. Everything on the left is now reassembled. Place this cap back in over the CO screw to stop any vacuum leaks during warm-up. I'd also like to get this cover back on right quick. It's starting to look like a completed engine. This will definitely help. Pouring rain outside, so I'm going to continue to work a little bit more tonight. That's going to include this air intake hose that needs to be replaced. But before I forget, RPM relay going back in. It would be really embarrassing to forget plugging that back in. Also, I checked all the fuses while I was here. As well as the oil. This car's been sitting for a while, but the oil is full. And I want to check the transmission fluid as well after the oil. So I'll take that out right quick. And it hasn't been turned on, so it's going to look really overflowed. But that means we got oil in the system. So that's going to work too. I always found measuring the actual transmission fluid levels on this car to be a bit diabolical, but that's a different topic for a different time. I'd also like to address this timing plate. It's very hard to see. So I'm going to take a brush and clean the plate off. Maybe we'll get a better view. Cleaned with a light coat of oil, looking much better. Here we see our notch for 13 and our notch for 0. The other values now are also visible. I want to set up this CO with the air filter on completely, so I'm going to address this problem now. Loosening this screw will remove the entire pipe, slowing it down so you can hear the thunder. Yeah, we're getting some weather this week. This is a really long screw, and it's going to be replaced with an even longer screw once I'm done. So it won't be going back in. Bend this bracket out of the way and remove this entire assembly. I'll just negotiate it out from under that water bottle. It'll come out this way. Here we see the hot air from the stove. This is the intake to the air filter. And then we have on the back is the cold air coming from the outside. Chalked up in a vise, we're going to see if this thing even works. So I'm going to hit it very gently with a cigarette lighter. Taking a look inside to see what happens. And it is slowly opening up. So it is in fact working, and it does make its way to full open after a time, but we'll notice that it's extremely asthmatic. It's very narrow in that passage. It's not wide open inside. With the fire extinguisher on standby, I'm going to do a quick smoke test. I would like to blow out all this dust that accumulated around here, especially on the intake. The CO screw's only in the ballpark, but it should be good enough for a test and a warm-up. We're just going to run it for a couple minutes. Throw caution to the wind and see what happens. Remembering that there is air in the lines, it may be rough for a second or two. That started up with like no problem at all. And it's running smooth cold. Let's look around. No black smoke coming out of the exhaust pipes, always a good sign. Yeah, it seems okay. I don't want to run it too long. This is just a test run. Nothing's leaking. Nothing's on fire. We're going to shut it down. I've purchased this Spectre 3-inch duct, model number 8741. These ends fit on like so. The one end I left on the bigger side, and the other end I put in on the smaller side for reasons that I'll show. The elbow fits better with a slightly smaller circumference, as demonstrated here. So this smaller end will be the elbow side. And this one seals perfectly into the airbox just inside it and gets wider as you push it in, so it makes a great seal. And that's the bigger side. Having placed the elbow back in, which is quite a pain in the ass to get that in right, I'll then install that hose and connect it to the elbow. I don't have all the bends set up perfectly just yet, so it's a bit fidgety to get this on. A larger screw will be required to get this bracket closed. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll run to Ace later and get a larger screw. Installing the air filter now just for fitment. Blowing away the dust again. I'll place the air filter on, and I'm going to have to negotiate this hose because the bends are not set up right yet. So I'm starting the filter first, and then I'll compress everything and bend everything down here such that the filter sits right on, as if the original hose was connected to it. This vacuum line should fit right in, and while I'm not going to screw the filter down just yet, because I'm going to be removing it shortly, it looks like this portion of the project was a success. I've purchased this kit to replace all of them stupid spouts in my gas cans. You know, the ones that aren't supposed to drip any gas or fumes, but just pour gas everywhere. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that's a fancy upgrade, and I need this because I need a place to put all the old gas that's in the Delorean because I don't want to reuse it. I'm going to take out the fuel metering unit as a way of siphoning it out. All the old gas to be pumped out, stored, and used in my tractor. I also purchased this electric transfer pump because I got tired of using the hand pump to pump out all these gallons of gasoline, and it uses my 2D batteries that I just use for specialized equipment, moving them around. So I just drop this side in the tank, the spout in the empty can, and I push the power button. Too easy. I'll come back when all the gas is drained. A few tanks later, all the gas is drained. I'll remove this pump now and put the fuel metering unit back in so I don't forget and drive off without it. E0 gas just filled up in a brand new can. We're going to fill up this car now in the spill-proof can. See how well this bad boy works. Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's hear it for the EPA. Eventually, I figure out exactly how I'm supposed to hold it so it doesn't pour gas all over the car and actually gets it into the tank. I also added just a splash of Techron in, not too much, and replaced the spout to finish my task. I've now got a few gallons of E0 that'll mix with the old gas, whatever residual old gas is in there, and dilute it will burn it out. I finish off this portion by removing the RPM relay, shorting the wires to the fuel pump, and letting it run for several minutes just to mix all that gas around and distribute it, old and new. Everything sounded good and it mixed well. I'll remove those jumper wires and move on to the next step. Idle and timing is next using a simple timing gun. I'll remove the air filter housing for easier access. Cylinder 1 is the rear cylinder on this side. I'll trace back the wire right to here and put my clamp around it. Then I'll ground it to the engine with black. Red will go right to my 12 volts to the battery. I'll fire up the car now and get it fully warmed up. I believe due to that check valve or whatever problem, I get air in the line when it first turns on after sitting, and we see that now, but it clears right up. That's something I'm going to deal with in another chapter. But for right now, we're just waiting for the temperature to come up. First I check the idle, which sits around 750 perfectly. Then I check the timing, which is impossible to see on camera, so I did a freeze frame, and we can see it's sitting there just 1 degree off, so it's within tolerance. Now I'll make sure there's no vacuum going to the distributor as it sits idling, so I'll remove the distributor from the solenoid. It's the hose up front, and on the solenoid I see no vacuum. If there was vacuum there, I'd have to start troubleshooting as to why that is. If the timing was off, it's a 2-person job. I'd have to loosen this bolt and rotate the distributor until I got the correct timing. And 2 people because the bolt is over here, and given the proximity, it's not an easy reach. The timing gun now removed, the air filter is placed back on. It's easier now because the correct hose bends are now in place. Then I open up the cap for the diagnostic plug on the driver's side of the firewall. Then I place a clean towel on the air filter, and it's not just to protect the air filter, but this museum piece right here, which I have repaired in another video, an original Heathkit late 60s, early 70s dwell meter. Click the link in the top right corner to take you to that video. I'm borrowing this from my original Heathkit collection. And this thing is absolutely spotless, like it just left the factory. I'm going to be very careful as I use it and get it back inside. I'll connect these 2 cables now. The first one will go to that corner pin on the diagnostic plug, the pin closest to my front right. The next one I'll clip onto this grounding junction up here on the intake manifold. The meter is already set to dwell, and I'm going to set the other knob to 4 cylinders as per the Delorean manual. Right now the engine is cold. We can see it sitting at around 44. I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention to this until the engine's warmed up, so we'll speed this up and come back when it's fully warmed. After a while, we can see the dwell starting to slowly move downward, letting us know that something is about to happen. As the temperature passes a threshold, it's going to start to swing. And when it does swing, I'm still going to wait because it's not fully warmed up. I need it to settle down. I have my hex key on the ready when it's time to make adjustments. It's about fully warmed up now and the dwell is settling down. We're about ready to begin with our adjustment. Settled down, we're looking at a swing of about 52 to 62. So we're going to start our adjustment now. When I take off the cap to do the adjustment, it will cause a vacuum leak, and I'm going to make very small incremental changes to this one anti-clockwise, and I'm talking about a couple degrees. You can see it's so sensitive, I definitely overshot it. I'll let it settle down with the cap back on, and we're looking at about 25 to 35 now. So I'm going to turn it just a hair in the other direction. Again, when that cap comes out, it messes up the dwell, so you're kind of working blind, just a couple degrees in the other direction. But I accidentally pushed down on the screw, causing a rich condition, and killed the engine. I fired it back up, now I remove that cap, and we see the needle drop, making very slight incremental change. I place the cap back on, and we'll see where this settles. And now we're seeing 35 to 45, swinging directly over 40, which is where we want to be. Having made sure that cap is tight, I'll just monitor it for a few minutes. Tap the throttle and see where it settles. Very good. Just where I wanted it to be. Time to shut this down. This portion is completed. Removing my dwell meter now. It did a fantastic job, working perfectly. I'm going to place it back inside with the other restored Heath kits. Time to button up the rest of the car. I'll get that air filter bolted in now once it's seated properly. Put the cover back on my 12-volt point. And close the cap on my diagnostic plug. Engine compartment closed. Tires filled with air. The brakes have been checked. Everything is looking good. It's time to get this car on the road. Everything is running absolutely perfect. I'm very happy with the way it's performing. I know that there are some issues I still need to address. One of which is the gas is either a little low, because I thought I put 5 gallons in, or the meter is off. So I'll add another 5 gallons of E0 and continue on with my test ride. Again, we can see that idle's looking really good at this stop right here. And the car's running great. I did notice the fans are not cycling on when they're supposed to. I may have knocked a cable out while I was doing some work. I'll be troubleshooting that in another video, but I don't want to drive too far from home right now with that fan not working, so I'll do a quick test. We can see the engine temperature is still well within acceptable ranges. The other problem is due to that fuel depressurization. Now that everything is set up properly, cold starts are no problem at all, but it's having trouble hot starting. I knew that was going to happen. Again, that's for another video. But that concludes this video on the fuel injector and CO setup portion, along with timing for the Bosch K-Jetronic on the Delorean. I get around the hot starts by taking the cable off the cold start valve, replacing it with the cable of the warm-up regulator for a couple seconds to get it going, and then swap them back. But I do want to get that fixed as quick as possible, so in the next chapter we're going to be working on that hot start condition. It's funny because we began with the cold start condition. So do me a favor, hit that like button down below, helps me out a lot when you do, and hit that subscribe button to be informed of more videos like this when they come out. When the next video comes out in the series, a link will be posted in the top right corner. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?